Today we've got a really interesting one from Corsair. This is the oddly named K65 PLUS Wireless, and it's a 75%. Even though the custom keyboard scene has died down quite a bit from where it was a couple years ago, one major thing it did was continually raise the bar for pre-built gaming keyboards, and this one looks like it might be a banger. We've got a 75% layout here, so you get dedicated arrows and a dedicated function row with an F13 location. You get 3 keys on the far right column, plus a textured plastic knob in the top corner, as well as an artisan look escape key. At first glance, it really does look convincingly like a metal keycap with enamel infill, but it's actually just a really nice paint job over a plastic cap. The spacebar has a nice little gradient triangle graphic on the right side. Keycaps are in a subtle black and gray colorway. The font is really clean, but it's important to note that the keycaps themselves are not backlit. These are die-sub single-shot PBT. I do have to point out, and this could just be my copy because this is a really early unit, but not all the legends are centered properly on the keycaps. It was really messing with my eyes, so I measured it out, and there are some alignment errors like the Q, the A, the S, and a few others that are pushed too far right, so hopefully they've got that sorted out. The overall look itself is a nice departure from the more gamery offerings we've seen from Corsair in the past. If you still want to swap these out with backlit keycaps, these do have north-facing LEDs, so they'll work great for that. This is really a head-to-head competitor with the Asus ROG Azoth, and there are some obvious aesthetic differences, but the biggest difference is the price. The Azoth still goes for around $199 for the black version and $229 for the white, but this K65 Plus comes in at $159.99 US. That is surprisingly aggressive, especially given that the Razer Black Widow V4 75% is priced at $189.99 and it doesn't have wireless, so I was very pleasantly surprised to see this price. The chassis here is all polycarbonate versus having an aluminum top, but it's got a nice texture to it, feels and looks really premium, doesn't fingerprint, feels good. It doesn't feel quite as sturdy as the Azoth, but it weighs nearly a full pound less at just over 2 pounds. The face of the board is pretty minimal, very small model number in the lower left. You also have LED indicators for caps, scroll, and windlock, and we have a multi-purpose indicator next to the escape key that displays when a new connection is made, which wireless status you're in, and my favorite, you can just press function and enter and it shows your battery life. You can't see right down into the board between the top chassis and the lower row of keycaps, and they've extended that design aesthetic to the plate where the Corsair triangle pattern is visible under that spacebar. There's some sound dampening foam applied to the underside of that spacebar too. Underneath, you do have dual stage flip down feet to change your typing angle. You get access to a lot of secondary functions right on the hardware, including a ton of different RGB lighting modes, and there's a quick button on the side by the indicator that instantly toggles the backlight on and off. The coolest secondary functions happen on the arrow keys, where you can quickly assign how the knob performs. You can have the traditional volume and mute, but you can also use it to dim the RGB backlight. You can use it as a vertical scroll or a zoom function. So you can change the functionality of that knob on the fly without going into software. I really like that. On the top edge of the board, you've got USB-C on the left side, a power toggle between 2.4 gigahertz wireless, wired, or Bluetooth, which does support quick selection of up to 3 devices. There is storage for the dongle right on the board, and you can quickly swap between Windows and Mac, and the secondary legends are printed to support both without needing to swap keycaps. So the connectivity here is really solid. You've got Windows and Mac, and you've got mobile devices via Bluetooth, plus you have 2.4 gigahertz support for both Xbox and PlayStation. Inside the box, you get a dust cover, a pretty thick USB-C to USB-A cable, and a combo keycap and switch puller because this board is hot swap. Included switches in my copy are the Corsair MLX Red Linears. These look like nylon lowers and polycarb tops. They're factory lubed with light oil. They feel really smooth, sound good. I wouldn't feel the need to hand lube these. I have to talk about the stabilizers too, because not only are they MX style versus Coastar, which I like to see, but they're PCB mounted, which is really, really good to see. Oddly, there's factory lube on the spacebar stab, but there doesn't seem to be any lube on any of the other stabs. A lube syringe would be the easiest way to tune these if you want. Otherwise, the board's actually pretty easy to get into. All the screws are easy access, and Corsair has confirmed that you can open this board without voiding the 2-year warranty. So straight away, I definitely prefer the lower, fuller sound of the K65 Plus over the more high-pitched, brittle sound of the Azoth. Now, there is some ping here with these switches, and it's not just the mic. This is audible in day-to-day use. So let's swap out these linears with some of the Drop Panda X tactile switches. I would absolutely shamelessly use my own tactile switches in here for the test, but we're sold out at the moment. Now, I've not been really kind about these Drop Panda X switches in the past, but they're offering a new hand-lubed variant, and they wanted me to check these out. So the biggest thing there is that the hand lubed tactiles are quieter and more subdued in the board than the factory lubed reds that come with the board. Now, I am a tactile fan, so I'm a little biased, but I actually really like these. They feel really good, they're really snappy, perfectly fine for gaming too, and it does kind of indicate that you might be able to quiet that ping down in the board if you were to hand lube those reds. So internally, we've got a thick steel plate here that's silver. This is a good choice because it makes the RGB pop and it doesn't leave marks on the plate when you swap your switches out. We've got high density foam in between the plate and the PCB, and we've got a thin silicone dampener in the bottom. For most people that just want to buy and use a keyboard, I think the overall sound and feel of this board is going to be great right out of the box. But like a lot of the other offerings we've seen lately, the idea that you can get into this easy means you get to experiment with stuff like sound dampening and stabilizers if that's something that you want to get into. This does, of course, have IQ support if you want to sync up lighting to your other Corsair stuff or dig a little deeper into the lighting, but this board is 100% functional just on the hardware itself, even down to creating macros, and certain things I've found like changing lighting modes actually work better without having IQ on the host software. Again, this is early, so they'll probably get that sorted out. The battery here is 4,200 milliamp hours, and they rate the battery life at 266 hours with the backlight off. Obviously, the RGB is going to hit the battery super hard. I've been averaging about 2.5 days of pretty consistent use with the RGB completely maxed out, 100% brightness, and it's been taking about a little over 5 hours to go from 0 to completely full. This is one area where the Azoth comes out cleanly on top. That board is rated for like 2,000 hours with the RGB off, and I can confirm it goes a couple weeks and then some sometimes with the RGB on. Corsair knows their stuff when it comes to wireless, so I had no issue in performance in game, even when used in conjunction with a wireless mouse and a wireless headset. All in all, I'm really impressed with what Corsair's put together here, especially for the price point. The biggest critiques would be the ping sound that's present with the factory switches and these keycaps, both the centering of the legends and because they're die sub, you do have to be careful to not scratch these because they will show marks. Battery life isn't really a critique as much as it is a personal use case. If you're going to run it with no backlight, you'll have plenty of battery life. If you're going to run it wireless with the backlight turned up to 100, you need to be prepared to charge this every couple days. But at $159.99, I think this is a major W from Corsair. Great form factor, great feature set, and a look that doesn't scream gamer unless you want it to. That's it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.